So the question is, what would happen? This is module 4. What would happen if you switched some of those social demographics? That's what I'm going to call them. Uh, but also, you're thinking broadly about maybe cultural uh, demographics as well, things that impact your norms and behaviors, beliefs. But really, the social diversity is the biggest piece that diversity wheel talks about. So if you did switch from, let's say, in my case, from being a Black male of somewhere around the mature ages into being um, an Asian female living in upstate New York. What are the implications? I found there to be some really interesting constructs that you brought up, which I think lend themselves to the point of this course on cultural humility and by name, cultural competence, but really looking at the humility in this process. And the first one is the isolation of the switch. The idea kept coming back from multiple people talking about if I changed, I feel like I would be ostracized in some cases, I would be isolated in some cases, I wouldn't have the foundation of social support that I have now. The interesting thing about that is at least one person talked about the expectation pressure. And the funny thing in the context of this melting pot of human existence is that we still feel this obligation to be normal. If you want to geek out on it, let's talk about superhero movies, which are my favorite. My favorite character is Batman. Tortured soul, really heavy trauma on him, trying to make it in this world and impact the world for good, but everyone has that can I just be normal kind of idea when it comes to their superpowers. Batman is the only person who says, no, I'm not going to be normal. I'm going to be Batman. Anyway, that's another story, geeking out. But I think what it brings up for us is this catchphrase that's really popular right now, which is creating space. And the question for you as a practitioner, the question in policy is, are we creating space for people to be themselves and live out their culture, to respond in the context of their social context toward health and well-being that's long-term and sustainable? Or are we just making them fit into our little box so that we can feel better about our institutions and kick them to the curb? The second larger discussion that I'm actually going to post on my blog is this discussion of personality, privilege, and perspective. And I think it's important for you to engage in the three of those as a reflective exercise. And it gives you specific questions. In personality, it's who are you? In privilege, is what are the influences on you? Because privilege at its core isn't about what you are able to do. It's about the group that invites you to do it and calls it right. And then perspective, where do you view the world from? What are your preconceptions about how the world is supposed to be? What is your common sense? Right? Because your common sense may not be my common sense. I can tell you for a fact, your common sense isn't my common sense because my common sense is informed by something different, something more unique to me. And so that is a critically important piece: personality, privilege, and perspective. And then I'll leave you with a central question. How do you view yourself? Because that's what we're really challenged with in the world today. Empathy isn't just about you choosing not to be empathetic. It's about being in a group that doesn't see the need for empathy and going along with that group. But if you see yourself as an empathetic person and you are a kind person, you are a person who is concerned about justice, then often you'll have to break away from the group if you haven't found that tribe that is about justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Jedi. Interesting.